Welcome back to One Recap. Today, we'll be diving into the action thriller film franchise, John Wick, which includes Chapter 1. Enjoy the recap. The movie kicks off with John Wick crashing his car into a wall. He emerges from the wreckage, bloodied and injured. He applies pressure to a wound in his stomach and watches a video of his late wife, Helen, on the beach before collapsing to the ground. A few days earlier, on a cloudy day, John wakes up and starts remembering his times with Helen. He thinks about a dinner they had together and the sad moment when she fell into his arms. Then, we see him at the hospital with Helen, kissing her forehead before the doctor leaves. John, heartbroken, is holding his wife's necklace. We then learn that Helen was sick with a disease that ended up taking her life. John jumps into his car and goes to attend the funeral. After some time, everyone has left the grave, but John is the only one left standing. A man watches him from a distance, and after the service, an old friend named Marcus approaches him and offers his condolences, checking in on him as a good friend would. The two engage in a brief conversation before Marcus bids him farewell. After the funeral, John goes back home and starts tidying up. He hears the doorbell ring and finds a delivery lady with a package. She gives him the box, which has a little beagle inside. When he opens it, he finds a note from his late wife, Helen. In the note, she says she's accepted her destiny and wants John to find happiness and love again, starting with this puppy. John gets very emotional reading the letter and begins crying. He takes the puppy from the box and sees the collar decorated with flowers, which makes him think that Helen named the dog Daisy. Later, he gently picks up the puppy from his bed and gently places her on the floor. On the following day, John is awakened by the dog climbing onto his bed and follows him everywhere around the house. He pours cornflakes for the dog and himself and decides to buy proper food for the puppy. He takes her cruising in his vintage 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. During a pit stop for gas, John is approached by Joseph Tarasov and two other mobsters. Joseph admires John's car and inquires about its price, to which John responds that it's not for sale. Joseph insults him in Russian, saying everything has a price. John then says, "Not this one," in fluent Russian, enraging Joseph until one of his companions restrains him, leaving John to drive away carefree. Later in the day, John heads to an abandoned construction site and begins driving his car recklessly, drifting to release his frustration. He goes round and round, narrowly avoiding hitting some trucks before eventually stopping. Later on, he jumps into bed and sleeps. During the night, Daisy needs to go outside to relieve herself, so he takes her downstairs. Two shadowy figures then confront him, and a third person hits him over the head with a bat. As John lies on the ground, the men attack Daisy, and one of them kills her. They demand John's car keys, and after finding them, the man who whacked him takes off his mask, revealing himself to be Joseph. He swears at John and knocks him out cold. After waking up, John finds his lifeless pet and lays beside it. He then proceeds to bury the dog and cleans up the mess in his home, as memories of his wife and the brutal attack from the previous night continue to haunt him. Meanwhile, Joseph drives John's Mustang to Aurelio's store, where he demands clean papers and a new number. The car, however, Aurelio recognizes the vehicle and demands to know where Joseph got it from. He brags about stealing the car, and Aurelio orders him to leave the shop immediately. But Joseph responds with arrogance, claiming that they own him. Aurelio shuts him up, stating that he works with his father and whacks him. One of the henchmen pulls out a gun, but the other stops him from shooting. Joseph then insults Aurelio and threatens to take his business elsewhere. Later, John stops by the shop and inquires about the car. Aurelio replies that the car was here and that Joseph is Vigo's son. Later on, Vigo calls Aurelio and asks exactly why he struck his son. Aurelio just replies, "'Cause he stole John Wick's car, sir, and killed his dog." In response, Vigo just says, "Oh." Vigo seems worried and goes to his penthouse and tells his henchman that he wants to see his son. In the meantime, John enters his basement with a sledgehammer and begins smashing the floor open. It is revealed to be an arsenal of weapons and gold coins. To resolve the issue, Vigo visits Joseph at his residence. Initially, he compliments him on his stylish jacket, but then he punches him in the stomach to tell him that he messed up. Despite his henchman's request to leave, Vigo insists he stays. He then informs Joseph that John Wick, formerly known as Baba Yaga or the Boogeyman, used to be associated with him until he retired to marry Helen. Vigo recounts an incident where he witnessed John kill 3 men in a bar using only a pencil. He then reveals that when John decided to retire, he was assigned an impossible task that involved executing several high-profile assassinations within a short period. To everyone's surprise, John's somehow instrumental in establishing the Tarasov Empire. Joseph declares that he can handle the situation and complete the task, but Vigo warns him that John will come for him, and he cannot escape his fate. Vigo then attempts to make amends by calling John, but he hangs up, indicating that they are in some big trouble. That night, John gets locked and loaded, knowing that 𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐚 has dispatched a squad of assassins to his house. However, they quickly realize their mistake of taking on the boogeyman face to face. John swiftly neutralizes each and every opponent without hesitation or difficulty. He engages in fierce combat with a few assailants before dealing a fatal blow to one of them. It turns out 𝐫𝐞𝐦 sent 12 assassins, but that is no problem at all as John blasts his way through each one of them. After the combat has finished, a police officer arrives at the front door and knocks. John recognizes the officer by name and asks if there has been a noise complaint. The officer confirms and inquires if John has returned back to the game, alluding to the lifeless body visible behind him. John says he's just cleaning up, and the officer simply walks away. To handle the aftermath and dispose of the deceased, John contacts an underworld cleanup crew. It's apparent that they understand this won't be their last time helping him. Meanwhile, 𝐫𝐞𝐦 approaches John's acquaintance Marcus and offers him a lucrative $2 million contract to assassinate John. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 also instructs his assistant, Abby, to advertise the job opening to other interested parties. Marcus gladly accepts the offer. John decides to make his way to the New York Continental Hotel, which exclusively caters to the criminal underworld. All Continental hotels strictly prohibit any assassinations on its premises. Among the familiar faces, John recognizes Perkins and Sharon. He greets his friend and books a room with the currency the assassins use. We are then introduced to the hotel's manager, Winston. When John inquires about 𝐿𝐺𝐝's whereabouts, Winston informs him that 𝐿𝐺𝐝 can be found at a nightclub called Red Circle. John immediately makes his way to the club, where 𝐿𝐺𝐝 and his friends are enjoying themselves. He then bumps into an old acquaintance of his and suggests that the man take the day off, which he gracefully accepts. Inside the club, 𝐿𝐺𝐝 is hanging out in the bathhouse. Suddenly, John appears on the club's lower level, killing one of 𝐿𝐺𝐝's associates. Upon spotting John, 𝐿𝐺𝐝 flees for his life. John begins shooting at the remaining hitmen, and even though he manages to take out all of his targets, 𝐿𝐺𝐝 seems to have made a lucky escape. 𝐿𝐺𝐝 then calls his man Victor, only to hear the boogeyman on the other side taunting him. John eventually returns to the Continental Hotel and tells Sharon he needs a medic in his room. As the medic takes care of the injury to his stomach, the doc warns him that he needs to take it easy to avoid tearing his sutures. John, however, doesn't understand the meaning of easy. Later that night, Marcus ascends to the rooftop of a building across the street and sets up his sniper rifle. He spots John, who is sleeping, but he also observes someone entering through the mirror and fires a warning shot at John. Perkins then starts shooting at him, but he narrowly dodges her attacks. It turns out 𝐫𝐞𝐦 is offering $4 million to break the Continental's rules and kill John. He engages in a struggle with Perkins and eventually puts her in a headlock, proposing that he would show her mercy in exchange for useful intel. Perkins discloses that 𝐫𝐞𝐦 keeps most of his riches in a church basement and says the location. He renders her unconscious and immediately leaves her with Harry in exchange for a gold coin. Unbeknownst to Harry, Perkins has dislocated her thumb and is slipping away. She manages to escape and beats him in a fight, to which she puts a pillow on his head and shoots through it. John then visits 𝐫𝐞𝐦's hidden stockpile of goodies inside the chapel. He takes out a gun, shoots the priest, and proceeds to kill every man that challenges him. He compels the priest to lead him to the vault or die. He is then taken to the vault room and unlocks the gate. John dismisses the ladies in the vault and sets fire to the entire structure, causing 𝐫𝐞𝐦 to lose his fortune. He goes outside to camp on top of a building next to the chapel. He spots 𝐫𝐞𝐦 and his main crew enter the premises. A firefight ensues with John going toe-to-toe with 𝐫𝐿𝐺𝐝's men. He manages to take out most of them until one assailant jumps into an SUV. As John reloads and takes out one more enemy, he is clobbered and lands on the ground. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 takes advantage of this opportunity to apprehend John. Upon waking up, 𝐫𝐿𝐺𝐝 questions why he is seeking vengeance over a car and a dog. John reveals that 𝐿𝐺𝐝 stole the life of his dog, which was a gift from his late wife, and warns 𝐫𝐵𝐾 that he can either hand over 𝐿𝐺𝐝 or die with him. But 𝐫𝐵𝐾 leaves him to his thugs, who begin to kill him. Luckily, Marcus shoots one of the hitmen, giving John an opening to take out the other. John then runs out into the street, and with 𝐫𝐵𝐾's escape vehicle in sight, he takes out the driver. He then aims his gun at 𝐫𝐵𝐾, who is then forced to reveal that 𝐿𝐺𝐝 is hiding at a safe house hidden in a Brooklyn safe house. John then decides to leave. At the safe house, we see 𝐿𝐺𝐝 inside a room playing video games with one of his mercenaries. The area surrounding him is covered by multiple teams and multiple snipers. As they all check in, we see that John also checks in. He takes the unconscious man's sniper rifle and begins firing at will with deadly precision. 𝐿𝐺𝐝 takes off, and simultaneously, his getaway vehicles erupt in flames. He takes off running, but John finally catches up to him and shoots him in the stomach and then in his head without any hesitation. After John's revenge has been satisfied, he thanks Marcus for helping him out. But little do they know, Perkins discovers the two of them communicating. She reports her findings to 𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐽, and in response, he orders his henchmen to trap Marcus inside his house. The scene then cuts to 𝐫𝐞𝐦 calling John and elaborating that Marcus was subdued for failing to complete his job. As they attack him and are about to finish him, he puts up a last stand and takes out a few men but is fatally shot by Perkins. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 then heads to a helicopter that will transport him out of the city. The plan is for John to come to Marcus's house where Perkins will ambush him, but she is summoned to a meeting with Winston, the proprietor of the Continental Hotel. They meet up, and Winston informs her that she has violated the Continental's rules, resulting in the revocation of her membership as well as her life. Upon discovering Marcus's lifeless body, John sets out on a mission to absolutely kill 𝐫𝐞𝐦 and everything that he stands for. He punches his car and spots 𝐫𝐞𝐦 and his men en route to their helicopter. He tries to ram his car into them. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 orders Abby to take out John, but John's vehicle collides with one SUV, making it swerve and go overboard. As they play bumper cars with each other, John pulls an amazing move, which manages to crash 𝐫𝐞𝐦's car into a pole. The Russians then start pouring out of the SUV and shoot at John, but he instinctively uses his car as a shield and battering ram, fending off all of his assailants. Abby personally gets out of the car and tries to do something, but he too gets killed. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 then suddenly rams his SUV into John's car, but John manages to escape before the car goes overboard. With both vehicles out of the picture, the two have a proper Western standoff and drop their guns. It's time to get dirty, and they both engage in fierce, rain-soaked hand-to-hand combat. It's quite an even match until 𝐫𝐞𝐦 pulls out a knife, but John uses the blade to his advantage, allowing it to hit him. He then uses his stomach to leverage and break 𝐫𝐞𝐦's arm. He then plunges the knife into 𝐫𝐞𝐦's chest. They sit for about 1 minute as 𝐫𝐞𝐦 cannot believe John did all of this for a dog. John then walks off, leaving him to die. The scene then cuts back to the beginning, with John still bleeding out but determined to keep going. After seeing the video of Helen, he stops at a dog shelter to tend to his wound. He also ends up adopting a pit bull before heading home. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. The movie begins with the roar of a motorcycle engine echoing through the city streets. A man on a motorcycle speeds through the dark and rainy night, clearly in a hurry. Suddenly, a car appears, chasing the motorcycle at high speed. The chase then intensifies, with both vehicles dodging other cars and narrowly avoiding collisions. As the chase continues, the motorcycle rider loses control and crashes. Soon the car comes to a stop, and the driver steps out. He walks over and retrieves a key from him. The scene then shifts to the shop belongs to 𝐫𝐵RAM Tarasov, the sibling of late 𝐫𝐞𝐦 Tarasov. Hearing that John approach, 𝐫𝐵RAM wastes no time in packing up his operations. Inside the shop, 𝐫𝐵RAM is talking to one of his henchmen who was confident enough to take out John Wick all by himself. He inquires 𝐫𝐵RAM, is it necessary to put everything on the line for a just mere car? But 𝐫𝐵RAM reminds him this isn't just any car, it's John Wick's cars. The man who killed his nephew and decimated his brother. All because of his car and puppy. 𝐫𝐵RAM recalls the stories about John, the man who once eradicated 3 men with nothing but a pencil. He describes John as a man of focus, dedication and sheer determination. Soon John's call and interrupts the conversation, demanding the return of his stolen car. 𝐫𝐵RAM tries to negotiate, but John disconnects the call. In the meantime, John manages to find his car. He gets in and starts the engine and the Mustang roars to life. John tries to flee the scene in his car. Despite the chaos and potential obstacles, he successfully begins to drive away. John is then pursued by men working for 𝐫𝐵RAM. Next, John's car is hit by one of his attackers, and one more assailant joins the fray. Such collision likely causes significant damage to the vehicle. Despite the heavy damage, John manages to restart the car, and tries to make another attempt to escape. Suddenly a biker joins the chase and shoots at him, adding another layer of danger. In a desperate move, John sacrifices his car door to stop the pursuing biker. John have enough about people ramming his car. In a desperation, John then rams his car into the enemy's vehicle. This aggressive maneuver successfully kills the men working for 𝐫𝐵RAM. Suddenly, John is knocked out of his vehicle, dazed but not defeated. He quickly gets up and engages in hand-to-hand combat with 𝐫𝐵RAM's men. John's fighting style is brutal and efficient, taking down his attackers with precision. After defeating 𝐫𝐵RAM's men, John confronts 𝐫𝐵RAM directly and tries to make peace by offering a truce. 𝐫𝐵RAM, after a moment of consideration, accepts the truce, as continuing this will only leads to bloodshed. With the agreement made, John leaves the chop shop with his damaged car. John then gathers his weapons and other belongings and locks them away in the basement. This action shows his determination to leave his past life behind. However, throughout the process, John is driven by the memory of his deceased wife, Helen. A few days later, John's friend Aurelio pays him a visit. He inspects the Mustang, noting the dents, scratches, and broken parts. Aurelio agrees to repair the car, not before telling him that it will take some time to restore it to its former glory. In an unexpected turn of events, John's doorbell rang. It's Santino D'Antonio, a powerful figure in the criminal underworld, arrives at John's home. Surprised and visibly annoyed by Santino's unexpected appearance, John recognizing the trouble it signifies. Meanwhile, Santino presents a ceremonial medallion, the blood oath marker. Explains that John made a blood oath to him when he sought help to complete an impossible task that allowed him to retire and live a peaceful life with his wife, Helen. Santino now calls in this marker and wants John to fulfill the oath and complete the task asked by him. John, on the other hand, determined to stay retired and honor his wife's memory, refuses Santino's demand. He explains that he has left his old life behind and does not wish to return. Santino doesn't take this refusal lightly. Enraged by John's refusal, Santino launches a barrage of grenades into his home, causing a series of explosions that quickly engulf the house in flames. Against all odds, John and his dog manages to survive the brutal attack to his house. John just stands there and watches helplessly, shattering of John's attempt to build a peaceful life. With no home left, John and his companion K9 turns to Continental Hotel, demanding Sharon to meet with the manager. Next, John meets with Winston, the manager of the hotel, seeking guidance. Winston reminds John of the unbreakable rules of their world. First, no killing on Continental Hotel grounds, and second, the blood oath marker. Once an oath is given on the marker, the person have to repay it even if it's cost his life. He explains that Santino's father is a member of the High Table. A council consists of 12 powerful crime lords who controls all the Continental hotels worldwide. Understanding the gravity of his situation, John reluctantly agrees to fulfill the Santino's demand. Soon, John pays a visit to Santino D'Antonio's luxurious mansion. Not wasting any time, Santino informs John that the target is his sister, Gianna D'Antonio. Gianna is about to become a member of the High Table after his father. Her death would allow Santino to claim her seat and consolidate his power within the organization. Hesitant but bound by his commitment, John accepts the mission. Before heading to Rome, John heads to his storage unit to gather his weapons and resources and essential belongings, preparing himself for the challenges to come. Next, after John's arrival at Rome, he takes a taxi to Continental Hotel branch of Rome, a luxurious place where he can stay hidden and plan his mission. Once settled in his hotel, John meets an old friend, Julius, who runs the Continental Hotel in Rome. Julius is an important ally. They talk about the risks and danger involved in the mission, but has confidence in John's abilities. After which, Julius provides John with the information and resources. Preparing for his mission, John then visits a hidden armory run by the sommelier, who assists John for choose the perfect weapons. John picks out a variety of firearms and knives, making sure he is fully prepared for any situation. Next, John visits his tailor, a man known for making stylish but bulletproof suits solely for assassins. These suits are special, which are bulletproof and designed to protect assassins during their missions. John visits another contact, a man who provides him with maps, keys, and the blueprints of the mansion. With all the details in hand, John then memorizes each and every detail carefully. As night falls, John, fully geared up, prepares for the battle that lies ahead. He manages to infiltrate Gianna D'Antonio's grand coronation celebration without detection of any adversaries, and confronts her in a private moment. Aware of her fate, Gianna chooses to take her own life by slicing her wrists rather than face dishonor. John ensures her death by shooting her head with a heavy heart, thus fulfilling the marker. With his mission complete, John Wick calmly walks away from party to make his exit. Unknown to him, Cassian, Gianna's skilled bodyguard, observes John's departure with suspicion, immediately recognizing his intent to eliminate Gianna. In an instant, both draws their weapon, and gunfire erupts. Soon John springs into action, darting through a bustling concert hall, gunfire echoing in chaotic bursts as he evades and retaliates against his attackers. Breaking away from the concert, he confronts additional adversaries undeterred, swiftly eliminating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 men before he departs. His path then twists through the city's subterranean catacombs, where he encounters Ares, Santino's fiercely loyal bodyguard. Unexpectedly, a double crossing with dangerous ambush unfolds, but John's armored suit provides critical protection, enabling him to deflect attacks and incapacitate several assailants. Leveraging the twisting catacombs to his advantage, he systematically isolates and eliminates remaining enemies, showcasing his exceptional combat skills and lethal precision. In a relentless spree, John eliminates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 in a matter of seconds. Escaping from the catacombs, John is suddenly struck by a speeding car. from the 𝐫𝐫𝐸𝐧𝐿, who immediately opens fire. Engaging in a high-stakes hand-to-hand duel, both men exhibit formidable prowess and resilience, exchanging powerful blows and tactics. Their intense battle comes to an abrupt halt as they land in the lobby of the Continental Hotel. Due to hotel's strict rule of no business on the premises forces them to stop fighting. Next, John and 𝐿𝐭𝐫 find themselves drinking in hotel premises. There, John reveals the motives driving his actions, yet even upon learning Santino's fault, 𝐿𝐭𝐫 vows to kill John out of professional respect and loyalty to Gianna. After returning to his room, John is caught off guard by a call from Santino. Santino, the one who requested the assassination in the first place, now betrays John over the phone, after which Santino announces a $7 million bounty on John's head, disguising his movie as an act of revenge on his sister. The next morning, John gets ready to check out of the Continental Hotel room and ensuring his return journey to the New York City. Soon the announcement of the $7 million bounty quickly spreads through the underground and it catches the attention of high-profile assassins worldwide. Meanwhile, Winston, the manager of the Continental Hotel, seeks a meeting with Santino. The purpose of this meeting is to confirm that John has fulfilled his blood oath to Santino by assassinating Gianna, and no longer under any obligation. According to Santino, there's no need for that, assuming that John won't survive his return to New York. Winston warns Santino about the consequences of betraying a man like John Wick. Winston knows John's capabilities and understands that betraying such a formidable figure will have dire consequences. Despite the warning, Santino is confident in his decision, driven by his own ambitions and plans. As John arrives in New York, the hunt begins. In a crowded subway station, John is ambushed by a skilled assassin. Using his quick reflexes and combat training, John fights off the attacker, neutralizing the threat swiftly and efficiently. Not long after, John is confronted by another assassin in a public park. This time, the fight is more intense, with both combatants exchanging blows and gunfire. Despite the danger, John manages to outmaneuver his opponent, demonstrating his exceptional hand-to-hand combat skills. As John continues to make his way through the city, he is attacked by a duo of assassins in a narrow alley. Using the confined space to his advantage, John skillfully takes down both attackers with a combination of shooting and precise them with a pencil at close-quarters combat techniques. Next, John navigates through the streets of New York. He runs into 𝐿𝐭𝐫 once again. Their eyes lock, and without a word, a silent gunfire between them takes place. Both men are highly trained, making the fight evenly matched and intense in the middle of the crowd. They use silencers and their surroundings to gain an advantage. The scene eventually transitions into a close-quarters combat. Using knives and hand-to-hand techniques, both men demonstrate their exceptional skills and determination. In the climax of the fight, John manages to gain the upper hand. He disarms 𝐿𝐭𝐫 and stabs him in the chest. John leaves the knife embedded in 𝐿𝐭𝐫's chest, ensuring that he is incapacitated but not immediately killed. Struggling to keep up, John spots a beggar and he offers a gold coin for assistance. With the beggar's help, he managed to extract himself from the dangerous situation. Not before the beggar killing the stalkers, John regains consciousness in the unknown surrounding, but his injuries are treated, and he recuperates from the intense battles he has faced, all under the care of the 𝐫𝐲𝐿𝐼, a powerful figure within the criminal underworld. Beyond just medical aid, John requests the 𝐫𝐲𝐿𝐼 for help to locate Santino and obtain ammunition to eliminate him. In the curiosity, 𝐫𝐲𝐿𝐼 asked why he will be helping him out. John explains that if Santino rises to power unchecked, you will lose your own influence, power, control and resources all over the city. Moved by John's argument and understanding the threat posed by Santino, agrees to assist him. He provides John with a gun and 7 bullets, one each, for $1 million bounty on his head. With the location of Santino, which is at the art museum, John infiltrates the museum where Santino is hiding. As he encounters Santino and his guards, the environment is tense. People surrounding them steps aside, with both sides ready for the inevitable confrontation. Utilizing all 7 of his bullets, John quickly disarms one of his adversaries. With a new weapon in hand, John resumes his pursuit of Santino. The chase takes them through various parts of the museum. John engages in intense gunfire and hand-to-hand combat with more of Santino's guards. He moves swiftly, taking down each adversary that stands in his way. John then enters into a mirror maze within the museum. The room is filled with reflective surfaces, making it difficult to track movements. As John moves through the maze, the reflections make it hard to distinguish real threats from mere reflections. Adding to the difficulty, Santino's loyal bodyguard arrives with additional henchmen. The presence of more enemies adds to the challenge, as John has to deal with multiple threats coming from different directions. Despite this, John uses the maze to his advantage, eliminating the henchmen one by one. His precise shooting and close-quarters combat skills are on full display as he efficiently takes down each attacker at a time. After eliminating the last henchman, he follows Santino. Eventually, John comes face to face with Ares in the mirror maze. The two lock eyes, ready for a final showdown. Then a fierce and intense fight ensues between John and Ares, as both fighters trading blows and dodging attacks. The combat is brutal and relentless. Despite Ares' strength and skill, John delivers the final, decisive blow, and Ares falls lifeless to the ground. John's victory over Ares clears his path. During the fight, Santino manages to slip away. He knows that the only place where John Wick cannot touch him is the Hotel Continental. Santino seeks refuge there. Confident of the hotel's unbreakable rules, John soon arrives at the hotel. He approaches Sharon and asks for Santino's whereabouts. Sharon directs John to the hotel lounge, where Santino is hiding. As John heads to the lounge, he encounters Winston. Winston reminds John of the hotel's strict rules. No business can be conducted on continental grounds. He warns John against taking any irrational actions, emphasizing the severe consequences of breaking these rules. Despite Winston's warnings, he finds Santino in the lounge, sitting smugly and believing he is safe. In cold blood, John shoots Santino dead in the hotel. This bold action sends shockwaves through the underworld, as John has violated one of the most sacred codes. After killing Santino at the Continental, John leaves and returns to his old house. The memories of his late wife, Helen, flood his mind. This moment serves as a reminder of why he left the assassin's life and the pain that brought him back into it. Next day, John with his dog is escorted by Chiron to meet Winston in the park. Winston meets with John. He informs John by killing Santino on continental grounds. John has made himself a target. Winston tells John that the bounty on his head is doubled and he will be declared excommunicado, which means all his resources and access to the underworld will be revoked. Winston gives John a 1-hour grace before the excommunicado status takes effect. This hour is a gesture of respect and friendship. He also hands John a marker. This could be a lifeline for John in the future. It signifies that even in his darkest hour, John has some hope and a potential ally. Suddenly everyone stops at the park and John vows to kill whoever comes his way. With the marker in hand and his faithful dog by his side, John leaves the park. As he walks away, Winston makes the call to announce John's excommunicado status. The order quickly takes effect. Soon messages are sent out to assassins worldwide, and cell phones start ringing everywhere. The bounty on John's head is announced. Realizing the immediate danger, John begins to run. As he runs, people on the streets start to notice him. Many of them are assassins or connected to the underworld, and they stare at him, aware of the price on his head. With his dog by his side, John runs quickly through the city, aware that he is being watched. The movie ends with John running for his life. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video.